Item 2, roll call.
Dietz.
Here.
Hankins.
Phone call? Yes.
Vogel.
Here.
Bauer Sox.
Yes.
Sires.
Here. Item 3, approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4, Luena Savings Bank. Item A, consider motion to recommend council approve the site plan for the Luena Savings Bank on lot 32 of Edgewater Point Plat 2. Do you have any update for us, Gary, on a meeting or kind of the direction we ended with last time?
Yes, sir, I do. As you recall, P&Z asked for me to, one, talk with our city attorney, and number 2, orchestrate a meeting between two parties. The meeting between the two parties did not take place. I was on vacation last week, and the parties, there was no date that the two parties could really get together. In meeting with our city attorney, that was done on August 24th, and before us was 2 agreements, or before us was an agreement. We have subsequently learned of a second agreement. The first agreement was between Ron Diddy as CEO of a bank and Ron Diddy as the property owner of the other 2 lots, or the L-shaped, that is involved in the area around the bank. In other words, Diddy's bank was here, and I believe it was First Bank Iowa, and these 2 lots then were owned by Ron Diddy. I'm sorry I don't have a bigger. Not much, but that agreement sets out that there has to be an easement through there, has to be provided by the bank or whoever is in that building with the bank. In other words, it goes with the land. That is to extend the utilities that are now at the end of the pavement, and also to do the pavement that would be necessary for that road that goes across in that small piece there.
And so that's the obligation of the holder of the bank's property.
Yes. Yes, which right now is Luena Bank.
Yeah.
This is going to get more confusing as we go along. That was done in May of 2005. 23rd day of May 2005. Now in June 27th of 2005.
Can I ask a question about the first agreement?
Yes.
Why was the city involved in that agreement?
Because
They weren't the first one, right?
they were not involved in the first agreement.
That was the new one.
But-
That just showed up.
In a way, and this is what gets us to the second agreement, is that they were showing the city that there is access, so that what the bank was planning to do was not shut off access to those other 2 lots so they could be buildable. That's the intent. So now they bring the city in saying, hey, see, we've got access points here. You agree? Yes, we agree. The city, you will enforce that there's always going to be access there? Yes, that's agreement number 2. It doesn't change who does what or who's responsible for what out there. That then paved the way for that lot to then get a site plan to be built upon, to be subdivided, everything. So then the question was, as we move forward, is this a city issue? It is a city issue, but it's not, it's not really a city issue, and it's not up to us to resolve. It's on this piece of property. Now, oddly enough, Lot 32, which is where the bank is proposing right now, was owned by Stanborough. Stanborough was not part of this easement agreement. Why? I can't go back 12 years to tell you. I honestly, I can't tell you why. But was never involved in it. It was purely for a particular person to be able to sell lots sometime in the future and show that there were access. With that, it's not up to us to resolve that issue between the agreement that's between Ron Diddy and Ron Diddy. Under Chapter 15708, Paragraph 2, which is in your site plan ordinance, the city can require access through adjoining properties to properties, especially when we can take a look at safety concerns. And as long as it meets SUDAS. The city may interfere in these types of situations according to our city attorney. The access road agreement is read by our city attorney as an opportunity for us to interfere. But it's clearly an issue between the two property owners that make up the now present Louisiana Bank and the two lots that have been created with that easement agreement as well as the platting. Also provided was a covenant that called out a bunch of restrictions on Lot 32 as well as the lot that now has been subdivided as Louisiana Bank and what is now owned by Bruce Bolin. Our city attorney opined that this does not apply anymore, and if it did apply, it was not a city concern. So that brings us back to today. Do you have anything to add to any of that?
Not really. I mean, the easements, I mean, the reason the city got involved at one point was because Diddy was platting Edgewater Point Plat 2, dividing, so I'm going to say it was Lot 33 of Edgewater into what became Edgewater Point Plat 3, lots 1 and 2, one with the bank, 2, which is now owned by Bruce Bolin.
Okay.
And honestly, because of that platting, and that's why Stanborough was not involved, because he wasn't platting his property. Diddy was the only one who was platting.
Okay. Any questions on that part before we move on?
But the properties on either side of that were not involved?
Correct.
Okay. So, and there's no, because the city signed that agreement, there's no requirement on the city to do anything other than what our ordinance provides in terms of being able to review these things and see if there's a reason for the city to.
Probably fair. That's probably fair.
Okay. Thank you.
So Kathleen, do you just want to maybe review where you're at now or what's changed on the plans for
Sure.
everybody?
Yeah, you had a comment memo in your packet that had, I believe it was like 5 outstanding comments. The first one was the access between on the north side of the bank over to Bruce Bolin's property, where at the last meeting it was discussed whether the alignment had several bends in it, although they did meet the turning radiuses for emergency vehicles. And so there was some discussion about possibly realigning that. Instead, what the developer has proposed is to actually cut off that cross access between the two properties and instead provide access on the west side of Louisiana Bank. So if you look at your drawing, what they are proposing, what was shown on the site plan is the red center line that was before you last month, and now what they're proposing is the blue. which means they would still have the primary access to Boland's property as it always was, could go through Lot 2, and then down, on the west side of the bank, across that existing driveway that you see there, and I apologize, the blue's color's kind of light to see, and then that would get them back to the frontage roads where they could either go out to Tyler or out to Bridge Road in either direction, and that would give opportunity for emergency vehicles to use that without having to back up a fire truck or something that way. So it provides access from an emergency services standpoint. So that's the proposal that's in front of you. So they did provide a revised site plan that was in your packets that showed cutting off that access. There was also some adjustments to the grade that were made. So now there's about a 2-foot grade differential on that property line, which may make it a little bit more challenging if property owners ever wanted to interconnect. If two more agreeable property owners wanted to make that connection on their own, that it would be a little bit more challenging to do so. So that's comment number 1. Comment number 2 was the developer was this was regarding the trees along West Bridge Road. They'd indicated that they couldn't do that due to their insurance company. There was a request that they provide some documentation. That was not done. However, they did add 2 overstory trees and 3 understory trees along the West Bridge frontage. And then for some reason I can no longer find the note that says that if they do use uplights on the flagpole and the monument sign, that those would be screened with landscaping. I couldn't, and that note just kind of disappeared. That was not really a comment, but just in looking it over, it seemed like that was not there any longer. And then comment number 3 was regarding the buffer on the north, particularly because of the high lighting levels that they were proposing on the parking lot. And they replaced the 4 overstory deciduous trees that were there in that 30-foot buffer with 8 spruce trees, 2 different varieties, but spruce trees, which are kind of the columnar, I'll say Christmas tree shaped type trees. But those are then evergreen. The comment number 4 was regarding the sidewalk that allowed a connection out to the trail on West Bridge Road, which they did show that, and they showed striping out one of the parking stalls to facilitate that cross connection that would allow you to go from their front door, the main entrance, to the trail. Number 5 is a stormwater management plan. They have since since the packets came out, they did provide a revised stormwater management plan that addresses all of our comments with the exception of adding some spot elevations that indicate across near the Tyler entrance that just indicate that there's a gutter there so that we know that runoff is not running down the street and bypassing their detention pond out to Tyler. So we just asked for a few more spot elevations to verify that happens. That comment went out this afternoon.
We did get that.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Review it, but yeah, I can't
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah, we just haven't seen it yet, so that we just got the revised bill today, and they just got the comments out before this meeting, so that one's not been addressed on the plans yet, but we would anticipate that would be addressed before it goes to City Council for approval.
Okay.
So that's kind of the status.
All right. Anyone in the audience want to address this or anything out there yet? Or?
I made a call to Schultz to give me a call yesterday to try to settle 2 issues that seemed to be pretty simple. I didn't get a call back. And I think if we'd have gotten together, we wouldn't even be here today.
I'm Scott Boyd. I'm the owner of Turnkey. He's in Boston, which is one reason we can get together for the meeting this week, so he won't be back till next week.
I would venture to guess that if we could get together, we could settle this quickly.
So issues pertaining to the site plan you're talking about, or?
I think I can make it easier for them to give me access. And my idea, should I talk about that now?
Sure.
The idea is, if you go, originally, when he called me when I was down at the lake, he wanted me to put the street north. If you look at the piece, north all the way across the back of the mile lot, as opposed to why wouldn't we just bring the street straight in off that north piece turn and hook it down to the street that I'm supposed to get, that he's supposed to put it in. It's already there.
Can you say that again, or?
Yeah. Do you have a picture of that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
What, use this one?
Do you have the one that has the red line on it?
The red and the yellow and the blue?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So
hold it
the
up.
red line going in.
Could you come up here to the
Yeah,
podium?
yeah, sure.
Or in front of us, and could
Sure.
you hold it up and point to us, please?
Okay. The red line,
Yes.
you see here?
Yep.
Good. I'm not that old, but anyway, okay. The red line, just carry it straight across over here, tie it back down to the street they gotta put in. And you see, it doesn't look like it's in the way of anything.
Currently, that's a one-way street, though, coming around. I think I brought that up last time, but
Oh,
around the top is a one-way, which is, we'd have to widen that out in order to do that, which,
is that a simple solution? To me, it looks like it.
guess I'd
There,
have to-
there's a 30-foot buffer. I mean, I mean, I don't know if it's the reason it's wide, but in terms of widening it, you can't go any farther north.
Yeah.
Because there's a 30-foot
And then
landscape
go a
buffer.
little south.
I think you'd have
Yeah,
to
but
make the parking one way and squeeze that lane out, and maybe diagonal parking on the one directly north.
And the other good thing about that, they're building on the end of their bank, which I like, is a little conference center for the city. And it would give people access off of Tyler into that conference center. Quite, I think it'd be better. Okay. At least that's my comment. That's part of it. The other part of it was, why don't I just sell them a piece at some huge discount and let them do what they want with it and add value to their bank back here, because there's no parking when they go to sell that, depending on who they sell it to. They may need more parking anyway. Because the price that I give them is probably the price they're gonna spend putting the street in.
And that one's outside of our jurisdiction.
I know that. I'm just laying it on the table. Trying to make it easy to get on with it.
Any comment back on that from you guys, or?
As far as running that loop up around to the north side, we would lose the entire 6 spots that are up there. The angled 6 spots, because like Kathleen said, we can't push this to the north because of the 30-foot buffer easement. And one of the things that we have been, pretty big on since the beginning on this is putting this community room in, and each parking spot you remove, it becomes more of an issue with how many people can actually get in there. I'm not aware of how much, if any, street parking there is available on Tyler Street. And then, Kathleen, do you know off the top of your head?
I'd have to check code. That wouldn't apply. I mean, the site plan needs to meet it on.
Yes.
So I don't
Site
know.
plan needs
I
to
can't
be
tell you
on site, but-
where the no parking zone is.
I also think that losing those 6 parking spots would also take us below the required amount of parking spots that we need to have due to the size of the building.
Is there a downsize for you if that road directly below that, instead of two-way traffic, is squeezed to one-way with diagonal parking? And then you may potentially be able to widen out the top lane and,
We'd probably lose at least 2, if not 4 spots. And to be honest with you, diagonal parking, when you lay it out on the plan, is just as wide as head-end parking is. It actually can be wider in some spots, because what you have to allow for is the soft tooth effect that you get with the back end of a car sticking out, and you have to maintain a 24-foot wide aisle between anyway. In the end, you don't really gain much space, maybe a foot or 2 overall, which isn't enough to go in and make that big of a difference on the north side.
Oh, I guess one more clarification, just because we didn't know at the last meeting, that yellow alignment that would move the drive to the south so that it lines up with the 24-foot wide aisle, that would meet SUDAS. Yeah.
Would meet SUDAS.
so the separation from driveway to driveway is
That's
met
100
with that?
Mhm. And it's a collector in a commercial area.
The one big benefit to the bank of the blue dotted line is that there's just, we're not changing the cost of the project. It's actually a little bit cheaper to go that direction. We already have that existing paving for the most part that's already in there. It's making use of a return loop that already exists.
If you went to the yellow line, what extra cost do you have?
We have grading issues, like Kathleen had mentioned. Bruce's property it sits due to the rise in the hill there. It sits about 2 feet higher.
Well, and I talked to Lloyd last week before he left. One of the concerns he's got too is with the type of people that they don't. A lot of their banks have community rooms like this, and what they target is families and things. By moving that road closer to the yellow line, they're concerned also not only about the grading, that's an engineering thing, but they're also worried that a lot of people who use it are families with small kids. He says you're just putting all the traffic closer to the building, and for them, it becomes a safety and liability issue.
I would agree. I would rather keep the traffic up on that top road, and I mean, I guess that's where I'm kind of stuck at. I think it makes circulation better, but
And moving it to the blue line really puts it where a lot of the families will be walking.
No. The access to the community rooms in the back is on the north side. There's a separate entrance for the community room.
The south would just be your normal customers.
Yeah,
That'd be the bank customers. Yeah.
Do we have to stick to the 30-foot buffer easement?
It's in your code. That's actually in your zoning code.
Yeah, I would have strong feelings about making that in there.
And the fact that it's commercial up against residential. That buffers.
That's impacting the value of the properties to the north.
I think that's your call as a
Oh,
commission.
yeah, that's.
I mean, with the trees there, if you lose 8 feet, maybe 10 feet at the most, so that you could put a 2-lane road up through there. You're not going to see it, but again, that's your call.
Yeah, Jester Business Park, there was a reduction there, but they did have to get a variance from the Board of Adjustment.
I have a question or whatever. It appears to me, from what I recall from that agreement, that the access and paving requirements really apply only to this here, correct?
That would be correct.
And so it appears that the blue line meets the legal requirement of that agreement. Is that correct?
And I think it meets SUDAS as well.
Yeah, and the blue line would conform to the access management plan, which, so long as that, which we haven't seen the revised legal documents yet, but so long as that the legal document for the easement across there allows not only for emergency vehicles, but for customers and guests of the respective properties to use it as a cross easement.
Okay. So the only way the city would be involved in doing something up here is if the city determines that this is better
From a
traffic and safety and so on for the city, correct?
The language that came out of code that Amy asked me to put in there said that as with any site plan, council may consider compatibility with the surrounding properties in order to promote quality development.
Okay.
So that would be
So that would
what-
be
what
the,
would
that would be
consider?
the reason or authority for requiring something along in here. So actually, that wouldn't even need to be where it is now, right? I mean,
I'm sorry, Dennis, I can't hear you.
so there could be possibility of just requiring an entrance to the straight across shot to this lot, and then it's, and however this is developed here, it can hook in up here.
So can I see what you're talking about? Right across the yellow,
It's
you're
coming
saying?
right across here,
Now what they make.
and then however this develops, they're gonna have to hook in on this property and bring it down. Instead of bringing it down.
The easement would then have to move.
The way the easement document's written is a blanket easement on their property.
Oh, it
They
is.
don't have a length.
So
At
it's
this
not where it's
point-
shown.
Yeah, at this point,
Okay.
so, yeah, I mean, unless that's gonna change, but.
No, it would just require, what you're suggesting is that it would just require that Bruce would have to pave a connector link from higher up north on the property down to where his current easement is.
From here to here.
And that would impact the diagonal parking.
Yeah, that would be the same. Which are they bright ad parking requirements, Kathleen, is that?
I think we're
Couple over, but-
within a couple.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. Sorry, it's kind of, I know they meet it and they're a little over, but I
I
don't
think we're
remember.
like
what they
2
are.
or 3.
Too short.
And quite frankly, what short the code issue is, and the code issue you have to deal with being short or long. The reality is, if this were a bigger piece of property, the owner would want a lot more. I mean, they want a lot more parking than what we.
The site plan indicates that the total parking required by code is 63 and they provided 74 stalls. So they're 11 stalls over the code requirement.
Over the code, but that's because of.
Yeah, I mean,
He wants more for the community.
But that's because of the use that they're trying to
They
have.
were 11 over or too short?
it's 11 over based on the city's minimum requirement. Keep in mind, that's a minimum requirement. A property owner can certainly exceed that, they just can't go below that.
And so your reason for not wanting to use the yellow line, you said, was pushing too much traffic through?
Yeah, I think it's a safety concern.
But the blue line doesn't create that same safety concern?
No, because with the community room, what we see with a lot of the community rooms that we do is it's more of like a birthday party center. You know, a lot of these families in the smaller communities will have a birthday party there because there's more room to spread out and have things set up. There's smaller wedding receptions that go on in a lot of these places. There are community events that happen at these places where young kids are involved. And when you have through traffic going right there in front of the doors, it just raises the safety level of it. I mean, you just have to be that much more careful with it. And with the blue line, I mean, yes, do parents bring kids into a bank from time to time? Yes, they do. I mean, I'm not going to say no, they don't, because I see them in banks all the time. But it's not at high of a rate, and you're expecting the traffic to be moving through there because it is set up as a collector link at that point.
I guess my concern with how it's set up, does it meet the point of the code? Probably yes, but is it really a functional route? Not really. I mean,
Well, the blue one does function, and it allows traffic going into the.
I just don't see anybody
property.
using it. I mean, the way it's set up is probably just not going to be used, right? Because once you're in there, why would you go down and go through the bank parking lot to get out versus cut and pack on the frontage road and out to?
Well, as Kathleen said earlier, it's more for, I mean, the primary reason is so fire trucks and emergency vehicles can come in there without backing out to get back out, and that meets the intent of the code.
Yeah,
I
said I think it meets the intent of the code. I just don't think it's
safety
the
for
most functional route. But
If anybody wants to take the shortest route, sure. Okay.
Gary, Barry, have,
I know.
has the city staff, I mean, how does it look in terms of the code, in terms of how it fits with other properties and businesses in the area? Is there any preference that the city has in this regard?
I'm gonna take a shot at this. How we looked at this was each of these lines, red, yellow, and blue, do they match what the intent is of our code? Do they provide a pseudos width to get through there? Will our equipment get through there? Can it be used as another access point to this property? And the answer to all three of those is yes, it can. The question that we struggle with is if it meets the intent, be it blue line, be it red line, be it yellow line, can we say that it's got to be one of those three? I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I don't believe that we can, because I think we've stepped beyond the role of does it meet our code, does it meet pseudos. However, preferred for a quicker response on safe, healthy, and welfare would be yellow. But I don't believe that after talking with our city attorney on this, can require that to take place. I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really,
So actually then barring any meeting of the minds between the two property owners, the blue line is pretty much what we have, right?
that's what's in front of me too. That's what the developer has in front of me
I
at
don't,
this point.
if we can't require a red or yellow line, then, and the blue line meets requirements, then isn't that what
So I got 104.
we have?
I can't find anything in the code that would say that we can require.
I mean, I think, from my perspective, I think the interconnections are desirable. I mean, but the more, I guess I'm always in favor of more routes. So, but like I said, in terms of requirement, it meets SUDAS, it meets the safety, it meets the access management plan in terms of, again, providing that the document's written appropriately, that it allows folks from any one of those parcels to get access back to Tyler or to Fifth Street. Just kind of depending on, as you know, Westbridge Road, sometimes if you're trying to turn left, it can be a bit of a challenge. Those kinds of things, it allows better access to all those properties, but the one access does that. But would it maybe potentially enhance to have an interconnection? Yeah, possibly. I mean, this is a relatively small site when you compare this, say, to like the Menards and Target and those kinds of things in Ankeny, where all of that is a lot bigger issue. Here, the out of distance travel by comparison is pretty small.
No, that's the best one. Can I ask a question? Please?
Yeah.
I'm David Lindbergh, I'm with Iowa Grove. You mentioned that the far north entry that you have there is a one-way. Is that what you said?
It's a one-way loop coming around the top.
No, the entry is two-way. The loop on the north is
So you
one-way.
can enter
Yes,
exit here.
yes,
But if you enter here, you have to turn right. You
yes,
can't go that way.
correct.
And so this is one way then going out from that point to where?
It's one way, it's designed to be used as the exit path for the drive-through traffic. The drive-through traffic comes up on the east side of the bank, and then it's intended that once they're done with their transaction, they continue straight up and
They're gonna
through
go
that
up and
single
around
lane
and
loop
out.
and then head out. Correct.
Okay.
That is the intent.
This is two-way through here. This is all two-way here.
Uh-huh.
That's two-way,
Yes.
that's two-way.
No. No, the last one that you said was two-way is the,
The blue one, that's two-way.
oh, the blue line, yes, is two-way. This is one way going up here.
So if you enter the bank here
Yes,
and you go around this way,
yes.
you can't go north.
You
You can't go north
You
there.
can go north here
But
because
you can't-
this is the
You
drive.
can't come through here and go south.
No,
Okay.
not on the lot 32.
Okay.
So back to our earlier conversation, a one-way aisle through those two lots, that shrinks up quite a bit.
You have access.
I mean, you've got to have a 24-foot width versus a 20-foot width, but your parking depth would go down to 15'7" versus 18. You can save 8 feet.
And
Probably.
we lose all the spots.
This is the only one.
I'm saying if you make it a one-way aisle through there, it shrinks up. You've got those, and then if you can add the width up above, you may be able to keep those spots. It's not the equivalent width like you stated, I guess, is what I'm saying. If you shrink it up to a one-way aisle through there, it's not still a 24-foot wide road.
One-way aisle on,
Through those two spots directly north of the building.
where the red and yellow line pass through. Yeah, you see
I don't know
essentially,
how you think the parking would work out if that were one way.
if this was one way,
If that's one way, either way, that's gonna screw up the whole period.
you would have to come in and loop around.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that loop on the top, like I said before, it's, right now, it's drawn as 16-foot wide, which meets the lane width for fire vehicles in case they decided to use that. But then, like we said, we would have to take out 8 feet to make it the 24-foot wide width that's required for a 2-lane access. And that would cause us to lose those 6 angle parking spots.
Well, I'm saying you're taking that out of the parking below it.
Well, if we take that out of the parking below it, then we're losing 4, 6, 8, 10 spots.
No, because you're doing angled parking still with a one-way aisle going through there.
I would have to sit down and.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the
look at
answer.
it.
I'm saying
I
it's
think
something that I guess I wish would have been looked at.
You're only gaining a couple feet. So,
You're measuring the car diagonally instead of front to back.
Right,
Yeah,
if you go one way with 45-degree parking, you get a 21-foot road and a 12-foot 9-inch aisle, or parking depth.
is that your city requirement, is 21 foot for a one-way?
That's SUDAS.
16.
Huh?
16
For what?
for one way.
Well, with angled parking off
Yeah,
of it.
depends on, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever parked in a situation like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you don't think it works, or what?
It does work if everybody's driving a Ford Taurus or smaller. If people are driving larger trucks, like a quad cab.
I don't know that it's any different from the straight-in parking that's 180 square feet, or...
I can take a look at it, but I mean,
Any other thoughts from anybody, or you guys?
I mean, we could scoot that diagonal parking closer to the what's currently the angle parking, but we still have the issue that the city has a 2-foot overhang requirement, so we're kind of limited to having a minimum of 4 feet between the front of curb and the front of curb on the other side. So that little bit of a green space between the.
Well, I mean, your parking space has to be the same size, whether or not you have
Yes,
the overhang or not.
yes. So, I mean, so we go down to 21 foot, then we gain 3 feet there, and if we, potentially can possibly pick up maybe 2 feet overall, you're still 3 feet short.
I think you'll pick up more than that, but. Thoughts?
Well, it's too bad that the parties weren't able to get together. And I'm not sure that they would if they did. But I don't see, if we're to act on this today, I don't see that we have, if the blue line meets the requirements and short of an agreement between property owners as to access to blue and yellow, or red and yellow lines, I don't see that. And if we are not able, if the city doesn't deem it, important enough to require an access to the property on the north end there, then I'd say that's the way it is.
Well, I mean, I think when we talk about preferred scenarios, I mean, there may be several that meet it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have those decisions all the time that are
Sure.
what is preferred or could it be done better in our eyes, but.
Right. I mean, to me, it makes sense to have some sort of access to that property on the north end there somehow. But
Yeah, this doesn't that look like common sense to put it on the north
It
end?
makes sense, but can we require it?
yeah. Does this liaison have any, Ron, as a city liaison, do you have any comment?
Yeah, I think that we have to fulfill our obligations in meeting that make sure that everything meets code. That's what this commission is all about. And if you have done that, you've done your job. Now, if the city council decides at a later time that they don't like it or don't like something about it, they can possibly override you, but if the council does that, you're leaving yourself wide open because you're not being consistent in enforcing your codes. And everybody has an opportunity that owns their property to bring in a site plan, to present a site plan to the city to get it approved, and this is what's before you today.
This is a little red thing down here. Kathleen, what is this little red dot down in this corner for?
Oh, I think it's just the truncated
Truncated
zone.
zone for the trail
Oh,
crossing.
It's a detectable warning, and they use red, the city uses red on trails, as opposed to gray on just standard sidewalk.
so the trail is down there,
dots.
Yeah, it's central line.
right next to our new little street.
Yeah, I mean, it's
No, it's
existing,
right
existing
here.
bank now. So
Well, that's the access road.
That's what they're
It's
tied
just a
on to.
continuation, it'll sit in
Line.
front of, the church has it, and all of Kester's development does too.
What's this one?
That's a trail. Trail goes by the front of the bank.
Okay.
Questions or comments out of anyone up here?
What?
Kathleen?
Is this,
No, I don't speak engineer. This someday street tie into that right there.
No, they're proposing it now, no, it cuts off. There's a curve here and a 2-foot grade
So they curve
differential.
across that,
And,
so you could not come out and go this way?
No, you
could not come out here.
you could come out and go this way, just not that way. The old, no,
Pay $500 to have us go.
I mean, unless, probably change hands, people change their mind, but as it is in front of you, there's not a connection at all.
There's a difference between meeting the intent actually be right or something.
out the grade issues between two lots at that level under the current grading plan. I think they were trying to resolve that last time and hadn't yet.
When you drive through the bank, this works really good.
Yeah, I agree with
This, and there's going to be a lot more people doing this. You got to look at it from a designer standpoint too.
They want to make a motion on that?
I would be happy to, I think they brought us in here and I think they deserve a vote, I guess is where I am. I'll make a motion that we recommend to council approval of the site plan for the Uena Savings Bank, subject to the engineer's review comments dated August 30th, 2017, which include 5 review comments and 4 review recommendations. And resolution of those comments and recommendations.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call?
Dietz.
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Vogel.
No.
Bowersock.
Yes.
Cyrus.
Yes.
All right. Item number 5, adjourn until September 18th, 2017.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Enjoy your long recess.
What's that?
Enjoy your long recess.
Mm-hmm.